or a security gateway or network security. We've had a few different names over the years, and that's kind of where we started out, leading up to our cloud native, if you will, solutions. So our CloudGuard platform that looks at, amongst other things, posture management, container security, pipeline scanning, and a number of other ways of integrating it to give you some of the things you're talking about, Colin. So security, the guardrails, and the kind of warm feeling of you're doing things right and something having your back when you're kind of venturing out into public cloud and helping our customers and partners along that journey.
Great. I'll hop in. This is Merritt Baer. I'm a principal in the Office of the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer here at AWS. So I work on improving our security internally and then translate that into empathy for customers as I talk to them about architecting for security on AWS. So happy to engage with folks. I will here, we're going to start recording, it looks like. I will put my contact info in. I'm happy to add an extension. We'll deal with that in a minute. I'm happy to engage with folks offline as well. I can, what we'll do with that. Okay, we've got it recorded apparently. So I'm on Twitter at @MerrittBaer, and then here's my email address as well. It's merrittbaer@amazon.com. I did not pick that cutesy one, but feel free to reach out if there are ideas that you have for things we should be doing better on our side, for career conversations, for ideas around how we might engage with you or your enterprise. Happy to meet folks in wherever they are and what's helpful. But looking forward to questions and conversation, and happy to try to engage as much as we can in this virtual world. All right. It looks like, are we waiting for Daryl?
Yeah, maybe, well, give him a second. He sort of bounced on and off there with
yeah.
He had video and sound, and the connection lasted about 2 seconds, I think. So
all right.
Hopefully you can join.
Folks are on, so let's, kick off and he can introduce himself when his connection is more stable. What are we going to talk about today, guys?
Let's start with security. Let's talk about cloud. Let's talk about security. Is it something which is front of mind going into cloud? Kind of going off the subjects that we've got here, security lessons from the field. I'm happy to tell you about some of the good things customers do, some of the bad things my customers do, and some of the common questions. So if that fits for you guys, I guess start there.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I'll start with a question for you guys. Let's kick it off that way. Fairly generic and common question. What are the common challenges that you see for your clients, your customers, when they move to cloud? So Checkpoint, our customer base is historically the firewall people, the firewall admins, the network admins, and people who are very much used to operating in a dusty grey data center with cables and power and cooling and all those fun physical, hands-on, tactile type of things. When you say to them, right, cloud, you lose all of that physicality, you lose, direct control over these things. Discuss. How does that work for you? There are a number of challenges that we see customers facing around that. And I suspect that they're fairly similar things amongst one customer, one consumer to the other, and probably challenges that, Colin, I guess you see as well, assuming that you kind of get engaged with the digital transformation, the moving from the traditional architecture into cloud. So I'll ask a question to you. What's a common challenge for you with your cloud engagements?
Well, yeah, I guess we have a lot of different clients in that some of our ones will just come completely greenfield. More often than not, what we're seeing now is customers or clients that have started down the cloud journey themselves. They've been like, oh yeah, I've got a credit card, I can have an AWS account, let's start down that road. And then after a few months or a year, they realized this is a lot more work than we thought it was going to be. We need to get some help with this, and then we'll step in and then try and, I guess, overlay our platform on for them. So we'll have to try and retrofit what we have into their existing environments. So like that's happening a lot more now, and where they've started to take the steps themselves, and then they realize they don't have the skills, or they it's been a lot more work than they've realized. But we also have some other, like, a lot of variation across the business where they're maybe want to migrate everything to cloud, or we've got 1,000 VMs on-prem. We either want to go fully on cloud, we want to dip our toes in it, but they want to sort of help all along the way. So yeah, we have a big variety, and then like we also within my team will look after other teams within Deloitte that want to get involved with cloud. So they maybe have SaaS products, or they maybe want to roll out some solutions. So we support them as well. So we get a huge range, and then but more and more we're seeing clients that have started to go down the route themselves and then realized, oh wait, you can't just give administrator access to this. You can't just follow this tutorial and everything's all right. There's a bit more to it than that.
It's a pretty broad subject, and given that certainly within Checkpoint, I would say my experience with customer engagements pretty much aligns with that. You can loosely pigeonhole our customers into three separate areas: the ones who want to do exactly what they've been doing in the data center with their physical servers, but in cloud, because insert reason here, one of their friends said it was cool, their peers are doing it, or they think the cloud is going to magically solve all the problems. And in some cases, it definitely does. In other cases, you kind of dive headfirst into cloud and realize there's a bit more to this than I was thinking. It's not just virtual machines and virtual networking. What's all this crazy serverless stuff? And what's all of this container architecture that they just hadn't anticipated kind of architecting for? So they're kind of the people that fall in the middle, I suppose, are the ones who are willing to re-architect and rethink what they've been doing for a while, whether it's relevant, whether there are better ways of doing it. And then on the far end of the spectrum, we've got the customers who want to go in and they want to adopt all of the brand new servers. They want to re-architect everything and take advantage of everything that a platform like AWS has to offer. And it's really fascinating seeing the challenges that those customers have across them and drawing sort of commonalities between them. And one of the biggest things that we see, and we kind of talk about as well, is visibility in public cloud. You enter into these really broad platforms that give you so much functionality and possibility. And one of the key points you mentioned was, someone's got a credit card, they go, hey, I'm going to go do some cloud. They get the credit card, go off to AWS, maybe another cloud platform, maybe all of the cloud platforms, just to see what they've got. And they start consuming and they start building, and then it organically grows. And what started out as a test, a play thing, a sandbox environment is now, that's kind of the production thing. We don't know if it's configured well or not. We don't know if we've taken the right approach or the right architectural decision, but it's here now. So we've kind of got to live with it. And those customers are, I say, fun to work with. Fun is maybe not the right choice of words, maybe interesting, possibly challenging, but you end up trying to kind of guide them towards what is a good, sensible architecture, but also addressing the things that have already come before that might not be a good foundation, well configured, or something that they want to persist with. So the broad spectrum of who we deal with is certainly interesting. And I really enjoy that part of the conversation, particularly when it leads on to the security element, which is not always front of mind when it comes to building a cloud architecture. A lot of customers, and I hope, maybe I guess that this is going to kind of carry across with you guys too, but most customers when it comes to cloud, and probably in other areas too, are interested in getting the functionality out there, getting the architecture built and making it work, and sort of getting some value from the efforts they're putting in. Security tends to be tomorrow's consideration or the day after, or in some cases, we'll worry about that when it's a problem. And that's a big thing for us, and trying to help customers realize that the sooner they put in the effort and the investment in time and money as well into security, that's going to give them a stronger foundation to carry forward with. Do you think that's a fair observation? Is that something you guys see as well?
Sorry, yeah, Stuart. Yeah, funny. I had that noted down coming in ahead of this, thinking that securities it will get put in security at the end. Like there's a bit of a sort of old, maybe perhaps older way of thinking or a different way of thinking, where they're just like, oh yeah, we'll get round to that. Like we'll put in admin access now, and then we will pare it down to least privilege, and then that never happens. Or yeah, we'll reduce down those security group rules because it's open to the internet, but we will change it instead of. And it can be like that's the easy route, right? Is the right? We just need to get this working, right? Okay, we've got it working, right? Ship it because there's something else needs happening now as well. You need to work on that and some of the fast-paced ones, whereas we need to be a bit more sort of controlled and some of the things that we have is like auto remediation guardrails in our platform. So for the likes of those, if they're somebody does a security group rule that like 0.0.0/0, that event gets captured, gets processed, and then there's a landfill fire in, worm into the account, rip that out, and then tell the person, here, look, you've opened this up to the world, we've closed it down. Same if they're like opening up buckets or not encrypting data, those sorts of things. So we try and keep take not the burden of security, because it is their responsibility as well, but try and give them like that sort of ring fenced environment to try and help them build it. So try and take away some of the stress with that, and just say like, here's some of the big headers, the main things, we'll take care of it, but you should just be aware of it as well. And similarly, whenever trying to develop some of the applications as well, trying to bake in the security, so like the developers, even though it should be developing with security in mind, don't have to think about it first and forefront when they're trying to do whatever their ticket is in front of them.
I suppose the guardrails help when the security department are looked at the department of no, yeah. So they come to security and say, no, you can't do that. So the guardrails do help, because the first time they do it, they go, okay, I can't do that. Like we have the same thing in Liberty. The guardrails are really strict. We have an application called Radar, so it's event driven around what the developers are doing up in AWS. And again, if they open a port in a security group, it's closed down immediately. If they don't tag a S3 bucket correctly, that should be public, it'll be shut down immediately. The permissions will be revoked. So yeah, that seems to be right across the industry, that kind of guardrails to guide the developers, I suppose. And I suppose it's a learning curve for them as well to understand the risks that they're opening up there.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting one. The question about automation, as a vendor, we tend to talk about what is possible, what the kind of cutting edge of security is, and what they can achieve by putting these sort of tools in place. When you talk about automatic remediation, you get people who are very keen on it. They're like, excellent, I can take away a lot of the kind of undifferentiated heavy lifting, the boring tasks, the day-to-day fluff that fills up my help desk queue. Other people are like, well, you're going to let a script loose on my production cloud environment and just turn things off. And I guess with anything, you kind of get different extremes. And yeah. I personally love automate as much as I possibly can, because it makes you feel like a wizard when you put some scripts in place and you watch your environment look after itself. That's something which I find really interesting. But then I can equally see how some people are terrified about not having absolute complete control over their environment. One of the use cases is one that you mentioned, actually, going around and finding S3 buckets or a storage facility in another cloud platform. It's not necessarily S3. They're not as evil as people make out. People just use them badly and misuse them. Yeah, public S3 buckets, readable, writable in some situations. Talking about going through and just deleting them, that seems to be more scary than having some unknown on the internet just taking all your data, which is a kind of interesting opinion to form, I suppose, given that you'd rather somebody else had your data than you delete it. But that's by the by. But automation is definitely a fairly common topic amongst the customers I talk to. So interesting to hear that you found that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose you can flip that into the incident response side of things as well. The automation is absolutely becoming huge there now. Like if a manual remediation of an exposed or a compromised EC2 instance take 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, right? If we can put some automation around that applies a security group, cuts it off, brings the snapshot into a forensics account, that type of thing, where your analyst is able to go in and analyze what needs to be done. So your remediation actually takes 2 or 3 minutes. But the fact that after that may take a couple of hours, but you've contained it up to that point, So yeah, automation is absolutely huge with us.
Yeah, I suppose that's part of the journey. You don't just say, as Colin was saying, you don't get your credit card, turn up in a cloud platform and just have everything magically form in front of you. Tools like Terraform can do a lot of that for you, and CloudFormation, Ansible, but it's not going to magically fix all your problems and create these processes. You've got to put the effort in to get to that kind of utopia of, we've got a lot of things automated. We've taken away a lot of the hard work. We've just got the other bits to do. But I saw some questions popping up. I have no idea where they've gone. They sort of appeared as a bubble and then disappeared
Well, I
again.
think I can see them. I can see some of them here. So somebody asked thoughts on AI's role in securing cloud.
So if you take a tool like GuardDuty, right? We use GuardDuty. Okay, it's a detection tool within AWS. That's buying, right? So you're buying a service off AWS that has AI integrated into the background, whether it's using anomaly detection or machine learning, right? So that's all running in the background. So we take advantage of that as a consumer of AWS products, and they would manage the AI side of things for us. So in relation to GuardDuty, they retired 13 finding types earlier this year and brought in 8 new finding types that were based on anomalous behavior. So that was a real help to us as a consumer. It cut out a lot of noise, like as a security operations center. I'm sure you're aware there's a lot of noise that goes on, a lot of benign alerts. So AWS in the background are working on that for us. Now, we do have our own AI department, but in relation to security, we kind of consume that from an AWS perspective.
We employ machine learning within Checkpoint, and in one of our technologies called Threat Cloud, which is, without going off on a full pitch and history lesson, it's where we do all of our intelligent stuff around threats. And part of that environment is a machine learning contextual generating sandbox environment. And we've got I think it's about 60 different behavioral analytics engines that run on files that get emulated to spot bad things, like reaching out to download second or third stage payloads, spawning processes, registry, disk read writes, anything that a malicious payload might do. We've got that environment that uses machine learning to enhance its efficacy. So when we first introduced one of our particular engines that uses machine learning, we saw the false positive ratio on that particular engine jump by a ridiculous percentage. So given the right application of it, I think it's incredibly valuable, especially when it comes to chewing through big data sets where it's easy to extract patterns. When you're talking about something like, here is an ML model, go and make my cloud better, I think that's a bit too generic, and you wouldn't just let some crazy machine learning based bot go and fix things in your cloud platform, because it's very difficult to take into consideration all of the nuances about your platform and all of the different business processes that it's probably going to miss out. So I think in the right application, it is an excellent tool, and you're seeing it across the industry and more technologies being used to give you that high level of confidence on, in particular, security decisions.
Absolutely. So I see the other questions there. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Colin.
No, you're okay. I was just going to say we're the same as you, Darryl. Like we use GuardDuty and pipe all the logs through there and let AWS take care of it for us and do the heavy lifting, because we're not an AI shop in my team. So yeah, we're able to leverage GuardDuty and just like yourselves, and just take out the findings, pass it through our notification monitoring hub, and take it from there. But yeah, sorry, more questions there. Do you want to have a go?
Top security interview questions people get right, and top security interview questions people get wrong. I'm sure you can Google that one.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Interviews are either a really positive experience on either side of the table, or they are soul destroying. Just when you get somebody that turns up and they've clearly cheated their way through a number of certifications or accreditations, and you ask common questions that show sort of basic interest in the topic area or the job they're going for, and it's just a yes/no answer, or they'll avoid it and get on to the next thing. I would say, I don't know if it's a top question, but getting questions around specific vulnerabilities, what is the reference, what was the CVE, I think that's an interview question that's got wrong from the employer or prospective employee's side of the table. proving that somebody, knows vulnerabilities and references off the top of the head isn't particularly productive. And I think maybe that's not in the spirit of the question, but that's something I found for a couple of roles where one of the interview questions was, which exploit would you use for this particular thing? Like, well, I don't memorize them all. I would go off and I would look at, what the vector is and what the process or the application is behind it, and I would look it up and I'd see what's available. I don't memorize them. So that's my experience of a bad interview question from the other side of the table, I suppose.
Yeah, I remember one of my first interview questions, the early ones, it was kind of a scenario where you were an analyst and the CEO of the company came to you and said, hey, I've read this thing in the newspapers about the next big exploit. Please tell me what's going on. So it kind of explains to you, okay, well, it's like what you said there, Stuart. You absolutely know nothing about this exploit at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by lunchtime you're an expert on it, and you're able to explain the innings and outs of it, right? You won't know every exploit until you actually go and look at it, and you understand it. So I suppose talking about that in relation to an interview then, be prepared, I'd say. The candidates that we've interviewed over the years, it's always the candidates that are looking at this stuff outside of their day job as well, right? So they do college, but they have little blogs, they have little side projects going on, and they're able to demonstrate them in the interview. So they really stand out as a candidate when we're interviewing people,
I would 100% agree with that, and back it up, confirm it, whatever you want to call it. I haven't interviewed people for a role for a while, but when I did, it was abundantly clear that the people who are going to excel in a particular role are the ones who are genuinely interested in it, not the ones who think, oh, that's going to be a well-paying career, or there's lots of vacancies for that type of job. It's the ones who do it, almost as a hobby and as an enthusiasm. So the ones that do go off and they, get to the conferences, they watch the videos online, they follow the right people on Twitter, they contribute to projects on GitHub or whatever other community you're a part of. Showing that you have the genuine interest and the understanding is going to be far better than being able to reel off, yes, for this thing I would talk about CVE 2021 something or other. It's the genuine interest and the excitement almost about the technology that you're talking about, and that's going to come through far better than certifications and the ability to reel off trivia about what it is you're applying for.
Yep. Yeah.
100%.
Sounds good. See, there's a question there actually. Somebody's asking, in the future, will there be security jobs, and or will they lose them to automation? Earlier on, before the call, was a wee bit of prep. I went on to nijobs.com and just typed in cybersecurity, and there's like 25 straight off on the first page, like looking all levels from analysts up to like directors of operations, whatever it is. Like there's a lot of cybersecurity companies in Belfast, and a lot of tech companies, and everyone is crying out for sec DevOps, security engineers. Like we've tried to recruit some in our team. I think we have a role open at the minute as well, and it's a struggle to fill them, I think, at the minute, because there's a lot more demand than there is people out there able to fill the roles. So perhaps in the long term there'll not be as many jobs, but at the minute there's I think it's just continually increasing, and because there's so much to, with all the more services, the more cloud you're using, the more you're consuming, you have to look after it all, you have to monitor more, and then you get more clients and they've got all their intricacies that you have to manage as well. Like I think it's an ever-growing market at the minute.
That's an interesting kind of trail of thought about there's so much to cover, and there is, security isn't, you don't go and get your I'm a security analyst, researcher, tester certification. There's so much to it. And I've come from a post-sale support background, so learning about networking and desktop applications and endpoint, and kind of going from not the bottom up, but from the foundation up with the products, how they work, how they're implemented in enterprise. And I ended up doing security after that. So I would say, as a kind of a tip, or maybe a thought, don't necessarily go straight in for a security role, because the learning curve is going to be huge. Maybe spend a bit of time learning the things that lead up to it. So learning about the products, the networking, the application design, and how those things fit together and ultimately lead to how an attacker, a malicious actor might exploit some of those things. Because if you go into a security testing role with trying to think of a relevant certification, something that says, I'm a certified tester, CEH or something. It will tell you about techniques and tools, but it doesn't tell you about how the applications are built, how people build infrastructure, how they abuse infrastructure. And you kind of have to backpedal a little bit and learn the bits that lead up to the point where you understand the tools you're using and what the effect is on the underlying security element. Hopefully that makes sense. It did in my head.
Yep. Absolutely.
I took the reverse role of what you're talking about there, Stuart. About 11 or 12 years ago, university degrees in computer security, studied it, did it for research for PhD level, and then at the end of that was realized, like, I need some engineering experience. I need to learn how this stuff actually all gets built properly together. And then after a couple of years of that, then you start to, really get a bigger picture, a more complete picture, just like what you're saying of, like, yeah, there's the vulnerability, but this is what leads to it. I'm not sure. I think Merritt has dropped off there. She's gone. I think there's another session starting in a minute or two. So I think it's maybe on us to call time in this, or continue chatting if you want.
If everybody's jumping off to another session, maybe we'll sign off gracefully rather than just getting disconnected by whoever's in charge. It's great to talk to you guys. Nice to speak to everyone here who's showing up as
Apologies
lots
for
of
being
G's. I think my browser's clearly broken, but yeah, thanks everyone. Nice to meet you all, and maybe when face-to-face things become a thing again, we'll all meet for real.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a million.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Brilliant.
Thanks
Thanks
everyone.
very much. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.